I was wondering, how has poetry or expressive writing or anything like that improved your mental health, and how have you seen it impact others? Mhm.
Incredibly. It's so hard to really articulate in so many ways.
Mhm.
If you had asked me this 23 years ago when I was first starting my training, um, I would have thought and said easily that it's a tool for healing. But today, having been fortunate to witness all of these people and to see how poetry contributes to individual wellness, I really have come to understand something slightly different in the sense that I recognize that one size doesn't fit all at all.
Yeah.
What poetry does is it takes a long time to understand how um, how it's coming together. And the reason I say this is because it helps people either, reconnect to themselves first. And if today I'm asked um, what it is that people feel that, oh, I've arrived at this point where I feel like I'm healing, and poetry has been that source, it often is that they have learned to be compassionate to themselves,
Mhm.
to recognize their own journey and honor it.
Mhm.
In that, I realized poetry therapy and the poems that emerge from it, whether they are feedback poems that bring tears to someone outside, and feedback poems are a poem you write to someone else
Yeah.
about how you've heard them,
Mhm.
how you've heard their story. Um, I feel like the change really happens when people write what I call a love letter to themselves.
Mhm.
I feel like, sometimes people will come into my groups and they'll say, I'm not a poet. I don't think I can do this. There's this sense that you need to have the craft and everything in place and you need to be published. And I will often say to them, you showed up. I recognize that when someone shows up, there's a poet in all of us.
Mhm.
We use words to communicate, and I think we are all here for a reason. And when those words need to be out there in the world, um, you'll show up. So I never take this, lightly. When
Right.
someone shows up, I'll offer them a chance to observe, to just listen, hear poems read, hear others share. And I've had moments when that same person will be writing about their life, um, come up with vivid memories of their childhood. They'll have tears, falling down their faces. And this recognition of themselves, it's not even someone else, is really this deeper recognition of themselves that, wow, I wrote this. Um, it's a love letter in that sense.
Yeah.
I wrote this. This was my life. I'm paying a tribute to my life.
And paying
And there are
tribute to the experiences that, shaped into who they've become.
absolutely. And so poetry saves me every day. There are pauses and silences that are allowed between lines. There is that stillness. It's like meditation in that sense. The repetition, it's something that allows me to create my own meditation. And there's so much that when we take a pause, that we trust after a while that we can see what emerges in that. And that's what poetry allows us to do. Something else, the noise of the world dims down and
Mhm.
something else emerges. And when that happens, and you're putting that on paper, um, y- you are witnessing yourself and you are saying, I see me. And it becomes very, very real. And you get a lot of courage to go through something um, that's very difficult sometimes.
Wow. I'm realizing the more we talk about this, how much I've been unintentionally doing poetry therapy.
There we
Because
go.
Yeah, a good chunk of my writings, and I can explain it more when we're done recording. A lot of my writings have had that either self-love letter to them to myself, or writing to people who have caused me a lot of pain or have brought a lot of joy, or even people who weren't necessarily like super impactful in the story of my life, but did play a role, and how different they come across, and how focusing on these different things, like it is really therapy in that regard. Because I find, and I say this in a lot of presentations, when I use writing as a coping tool, it helps me understand what I'm actually feeling. Because I have like a million thoughts go in any which direction. I'm constantly fidgety. And when I have that moment to sit down, it really is like meditation, where
Yeah.
like 1 minute I'm fine and the next minute it's like a scrolling line. I have to write it now. And
Yes.
it's like it feels out of this world for me. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
describe it other than that.
Wow.
And I'm curious to see if you have any advice for someone who's interested in learning more about writing poetry as a coping tool.
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
Youth Speak Charity. Speak, inspire, change.